Hello everyone! Have you ever asked yourself how you can step up your musical game by introducing tempo changes in your piece instead of having the same tempo throughout the entire piece all the time? Here's how you do that with the help of tempo markers in REAPER. As you might know, by default, REAPER projects always start with a 120 BPM setting, so they will most likely sound like this if you enable the metronome. You can obviously change that in the project settings by pressing Alt-Enter
Project settings dialog HZ.
and tapping a few times.
OK, but cancel but save as default. Property page HZ. If unset, hard combo box collapsed. Edit selected 44 project BPM. Edit selected 120.000.
So in here you can change the BPM, you can also change the time signature.
Time signature edit selected 4. / edit selected 4.
Here we go. So if you change that project settings, the tempo will obviously change as well. Let's increase it.
Time project BP1 120.020.
Here we go. It will sound like this. And now you decide that you want to write a piece that changes tempo from time to time, which is usually the case in, for example, film scoring, where you might change tempo, or even in more complicated music. The one really important thing where we're changing time signatures is the Take Me to Church song by Hosier, who's changing time signatures rather frequently throughout the entire song. So it's even it exists in popular music as well. So you might find yourself asking the question, how can I do this? And the answer is tempo markers. So REAPER allows you to configure tempo markers, to set tempo markers throughout your project, to change the tempo in your piece. And the great news is MIDI will automatically adapt to this. Here's how you do this. If you want to change tempo, you go to the specific location where you want to change the tempo. You can use whichever way of navigating the project you like. I will, for example, go to bar 3.
Bar 2. Bar 3.
Here we go. And now we press Shift-C.
Tempo / time signature marker dialog BPM. Edit selected 180.
Let's say that we want to slow down from 180 to 80 BPM.
80.
So I insert 80 here. Let's see what else we can do.
Set time signature. Checkbox not checked.
So if we check that, we can change our time signature and go from 4/4 to 3/4, for example.
BPM basis. Combo box 1/4 collapsed.
So we BPM basis.
Set metronome pattern. Checkbox not checked.
You can even change the metronome pattern. So if you want to have, I don't know, a 7/8, for example, or 9/8 or whatever, you can change the BPA pattern from an ABBB to whatever ABAB, ABB, or whatever pattern that you like.
Gradually transition tempo to next marker. Checkbox not checked.
That checkbox will automatically transition the tempo to the next marker. So instead of cutting out and just changing tempo immediately, you can make a transition there. I will demonstrate this in a second.
OK button.
And then we've got OK, and we will hit that.
Unset.
And now we go back a bar.
Bar 2.
And we see what happens now. Right? So now we've got a tempo change. At this point, as soon as you've got at least one tempo marker in your project, the project settings are not respected anymore, because the project settings are totally independent from the settings that we've currently configured via the tempo markers. So keep that in mind. If you at some point, in whichever kind of situation, you change the project tempo within the project settings and your project does not respond to it, things don't change, tempo stays the same and metronome doesn't update as well, then chances are really high that you do have tempo markers in your project, either by accident or by importing MIDI or something like that. Tempo markers can be created and they will override your project settings all the time. So here's how you find out if you've got a tempo marker in your project. You can navigate to the previous and to the next tempo marker in your project by pressing Shift and semicolon or apostrophe on the English keyboard layout. Semicolon will move you to the previous one and apostrophe to the next one.
Tempo 180 times 8 4/4 bar 1. Tempo 80 bar 3.
Here we go. So because we added a tempo marker at bar 3, it automatically added another tempo marker at the very beginning of the project with our project settings, so that we do have a transition going on from the very first tempo marker, which defines the initial tempo of the project, to the tempo marker that we configured to be at bar 3, being at 80 BPM instead of 180. Now, I wanted to demonstrate you the transition feature so that we have a slow transition to the next tempo. That is easily done by selecting the tempo marker, which is done by Shift and semicolon.
Tempo 180 times 8 4/4 bar 1.
And we can edit this by pressing Shift C as well.
Edit tempo / time signature marker dialog BPM time signature always starts a new measure. Edit selected 180.
This is great. Now let's tab.
Set time signature. Edit selected 4. / edit selected 4. BPM basis. Set metronome pattern. Gradually transition tempo to next marker checkbox not checked.
Let's check it.
Space checked.
And let's see what this does.
Allow partial measure before this marker checkbox not checked. OK button. Unsave.
Here we go. So it transitioned linearly from bar 1 to bar 3, and it slowed down from 180 to 80 BPM. And that is literally all there is to know about tempo markers. You can have as many of them as you like. You can place them wherever you want. You can specify whichever tempo markers you'd want. And you can make your project go wild and slow down and go crazy again and change time signatures as often as you want. You can create the most craziest project imaginable with tempo markers through that method. Thanks for watching this video. If you found it helpful, then leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you've got any questions or ideas or comments that you want to add to what I've explained to you, write a comment in the comment section below the video. Until next time, bye bye.